The Rams season may not be going as expected, but have they found some players they didn't know they had? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Travis Rogers. Thanks for making us a part of what you do every single day. If you are a regular, welcome back. Appreciate that a great deal. If you are new, let me suggest that you click that subscribe button in your podcast feed so you can get it every single day. I would also recommend that you go check us out on YouTube. Our Locked On Rams YouTube page is a great way to take in the pod as well. Here's what we've got coming up for you today. We might see yet a different starting quarterback coming up against the Raiders on Thursday afternoon. We might see the return of Bryce Perkins. That's coming up before too long. And I want to spend some time talking about some of the other players that the Rams have. Maybe, we talk about this development period, and we're starting to see maybe some guys that are developing, maybe some guys that can help this team beyond just getting to the end of the line this year. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let me remind you that not only do I host this podcast every single day, I also host the Rams pregame and postgame show on their flagship station, ESPN 710, as well as the Travis and Sliwa show, which is airing every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's a good way for you to get some more Rams content. We, of course, spend a lot of time talking about the Rams on that show as well. All right, so let's start with I'm going to give you one player on the offense, one player on the defense that I think that the Rams, I don't know if this is somebody that's going to become a regular part of what they do offensively or defensively, but I do think it's a couple of guys that have identified themselves as potential contributors both through the end of this year and potentially going into next year. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball with Michael Hoecht. Okay, Michael Hoecht is a guy that is a special teams player for the most part, somebody that very rarely would fill in a defensive defensive tackle capacity, somebody that really did not play very much. To give you an idea of how much he had played, he'd only played 15 snaps through the first 12 weeks of the season. Okay, so he's been a play and a half a game, but play and a third a game, right? He's just not getting a ton of reps at his natural position. Well, as we well know, guys have been dropping left and right. Guys have been getting hurt. Guys have been put on the IR. Guys have been cut. And that's where Michael Hoecht's opportunity presented itself when Justin Hollins was cut. And the Rams basically took a shot and said, you know what, let's put him out there and see what happens. And what's happened is he's shown he can play football in the NFL. In particular, he has shown that he can get to the quarterback in the NFL. One of the big problems that this Rams team has had so far this season is the inability to put pressure on the quarterback. Think about what we're talking about. Aaron Donald gets pressure on the quarterback. Bobby Wagner has gotten to the quarterback more than his fair share this season. You have gotten a very modest amount of production out of Leonard Floyd this season. And beyond that, virtually nothing. Well, here's what Michael Hoecht has done in the last two games, kind of putting him at outside linebacker and letting him pin his ears back and go and try to get the quarterback in the last couple of games. In two games that he's gotten a chance to play regularly, he's gotten 7 pressures on the quarterback. 7. Okay. Nearly, 3.5 a game. That is not nothing. That is not just a statistical anomaly. That means he's getting pressure on the quarterback. He's gotten home twice. He's sacked the quarterback 2 times in his 2 starts at that position. He's forced a fumble along the way. These are the opportunities that we're talking about. We know that when you get back to next season, when the 2023 season starts, and we're talking about Locked On Rams, and we're getting ready to start the season and the players that are going to matter, we know who we're going to have to talk about. The Cooper Kupp's going to be an important part of what it is. You know that Matthew Stafford is going to be an important part of what it is, that Allen Robinson, presuming he's back, is going to be somebody we talk about, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner, all of these players that we know, right? But what you don't know are some of these guys that are maybe making a case to get a little bit more time next year, that maybe get a little bit more time in the remaining 5 games of this season. I think that's what we're talking about, because Sean McVay was asked when he was asked, when did you know that Michael Hoecht could be an impact player at outside linebacker? And his quote was, probably 2 weeks ago. Otherwise, we would have done this blank a lot sooner, which is funny and very true, right? Sometimes even an expert like Sean McVay, an expert like Les Snead, an expert like the coaching staff that the Rams have put together, they don't know that that guy's capable of doing that. And until you see him out there and it's like, all right, let me see. Well, that's not so bad. Actually, that's pretty good. Yeah, give it to him again. Let's see what happens. Wow. He got there again. Wow. He knocked a fumble out. Wow. Another set. That this is how now all of a sudden you have optionality. They have an edge pass rusher. I'm not saying the guy's the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that for a team that was struggling to get to the quarterback, Michael Hoecht has shown that he can get to the quarterback, or at least can get there more than the other guys they have on the roster right now, or a lot of the other guys that they have on the roster right now. This is how you make an impact. This is why, as unbelievably unsatisfying as this has been for the Rams from a one-loss perspective, there is value in these games. There is value in seeing Michael Hoecht get more snaps. It's not going to necessarily turn the season around where, hey, we're back in the playoffs, we got a chance to go. It's not going to be like that. But what it may be is, you know what? We're going to keep Michael Hoecht. We're going to get rid of players X, Y, and Z. But Hoecht, you're part of what we're doing forward. This is what the rest of this team needs to do. This is how they need to approach these games. Guys can play their way into spots just as easily as guys can play their way out of spots. And believe me, guys are playing their way out of spots too. We'll talk about that on a future pod of Locked on Rams. But absolutely, Michael Hoecht has made it more difficult for the Rams to say, you know what, all right, he's not a part of what we're doing moving forward. So no guarantee he's going to be here. But when you hear Sean McVay say, well, I would have done a lot sooner if I'd known he could do this. All right. Good news for Michael Hoecht. Good news for him taking advantage of that. So that's on the defensive side of the ball. Another player, maybe not quite as under the radar as Michael Hoecht, but somebody that was given an opportunity finally that's taken advantage of it. That's coming up next on Locked on Rams. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, so you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. That's the challenge, right? Not just hiring the right person, but getting a group of candidates together that are all the right person, and then you get to decide who that is. That's how you do it at LinkedIn Jobs. You post your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're firing, or not firing, hiring. Hiring is what we're talking about right here. Small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and find them faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked on Rams your first listen today. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked on Sports Today pod. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked on can provide. Locked on Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we talked about the defensive side of the ball with Michael Hoecht, how he's been able to take his opportunities and turn them into meaningful snaps, to meaningful results, sacks, forced fumbles, and made the coach turn his head, right? And look, go back to your days as a Little League player, a Pop Warner player, pickup, whatever it is, high school basketball player. What you're trying to do is have the coach go, who's that? Who's that? What can I use that guy? Is he a little bit better than I thought? And what you don't want is, hey, I can't use that guy. I've seen enough of him. Let's move on from that. And that's where the guys on the Rams are right now, trying to figure out how to stay on this team or how to stay on a team in the NFL, because a lot of these guys are going to find themselves looking for new places to play in the next month or so, right? One of the guys that was not under the radar like Michael Hoecht, and quite frankly, the opposite of this, was TuTu Atwell. I've been very critical of TuTu Atwell here on Locked On Rams. His impact, considering where he was drafted, has been minimal, and that may be generous up until the last couple of games. This was somebody that was the Rams' top draft choice, a second-round draft choice, somebody that was a little bit of a head scratcher at the time that they made it, simply because of his size, right? The measurables that we talk about so often. He's a small guy. He's not a big man. He's probably on his, after Thanksgiving dinner with his clothes on, he's probably 160 pounds, maybe. He's fast, but he's very small. So they draft him in the second round 2 drafts ago, and he does nothing. Second round pick should play. Second round pick presumably should play a lot, and he didn't. He didn't touch the ball a single time his rookie season as an offensive player. A couple of touches on special teams, but gets a shoulder injury relatively early in the season, and that's it. I mean, to say that he had no impact is not hyperbole. It's true. He had 0 impact on the Rams' run to the Super Bowl. Now, it was a run to the Super Bowl, so you could kind of write it off as, hey, maybe they missed on it. Maybe he'll get better as he improves a little bit, but this feels like something that was a missed opportunity. Fast forward to this year, and the Rams don't use him in the preseason, which oddly, for the Rams at least, is a good sign. If the Rams don't use you in the preseason, it means they're going to use you during the regular season. Well, he didn't get used. Lots of reports out of camp. I saw he looked useful, fast, pretty good hands, could get down the field, all the things that you're looking for a guy like that. And season starts, and they don't use him. And they scratch him, and he doesn't play. He's just not a part of what they do. And as Allen Robinson continues to struggle, and as Van Jefferson was hurt, and undrafted players like Lance McCutcheon are getting a lot of attention, it's like, where in the world is TuTu Atwell? He's not a part of what they're doing at all. And now, in the last couple of games, because of the devastation at the position, Kupp done for the season, more than likely. Allen Robinson done for the season officially. Van Jefferson still working his way back from injury. Ben Skoranek really struggling to find any meaningful role in this team. You've got guys like Trammell who are catching passes. There aren't a ton of guys that can go out there and do. We've seen Brandon Powell get a lot of opportunities at wide receiver as well. Well, TuTu in the last couple of games has been impactful. He's played 58 snaps, which is a million compared to where he was last season. He's caught 4 passes for 71 yards. He had a 62-yard touchdown pass. He had another big chunk play down the field when Matthew Stafford was still here. He made about as good of a catch as you're going to see on any given Sunday against the Seahawks last week. Right? A nice one-handed catch over his head. He hauls it in. The ball looked like a beach ball in his hands because he's such a smaller guy, but it was a great catch. You're seeing him be able to take NFL contact and get back up and go to the huddle and go back out there and do it again. Sean McVay was talking about how, in classic McVay, some of this is on me. I didn't give him the opportunities, put him in a space to succeed, all of the things that Sean McVay says. But again, this is an opportunity. Rams aren't going to win a bunch of games. They may finish with 3 wins. Best case, I think they get to 5. I think 4 is probably the number. So what you're looking for is TuTu Atwell going to be a part of what I do or no? Can I find what he brings me somewhere else? Can I maybe find what he brings me plus a little bit more somewhere else? Or you see that guy run past everybody? You see him get behind the defense, catch a 62-yard touchdown, catch a one-handed ball. Did you see all of those things? Those are things that I can use moving forward. I think he's another one of those players. No guarantees after this season. Look, when you go 3-14, 4 and what would that be? 4-13 or 5-12. Nobody, if your name's not Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, your job's not safe here. Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner's, probably a few more. But at least you're putting yourself in the conversation, at least when they turn the film on and say, okay, you see right there, he ran, nobody's going to catch that guy. Okay, see that catch? Okay, he took that hit. He got back up again. I'm still skeptical about the size, but he's made an impact in the last couple of weeks that I just didn't think he was capable of doing, which means you take another look. See what he does against the Raiders this week. Let's see what he does against the Packers the week after that. Let's see what he does against the Denver Broncos. Keep throwing him out there. Keep throwing him the ball. Keep seeing what you get from him. and see if he can help you moving forward. These are guys that at least are like, all right, let's see it again. Can't say that about some of these offensive linemen. I don't need to see anymore. I know exactly what this is, but those guys, yeah, show me again. I think that's what Sean McVay's feeling as well. All right, speaking of backups getting opportunities, who plays quarterback for the Rams against the Raiders on Thursday night at SoFi? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. This episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that you are certainly going to love. That's why you'll be able to find all of them in a sneak peek of Block Forever, available on Locked On NFL right now. Block Forever is a brand new podcast from former NFL All-Pro Ryan Khalil and Audible. Khalil takes the conversation about football to the next level. He gives football fans an insider look at the game through the eyes of the greatest players and personalities of all time. He gets guests and they discuss topics like player psyche, sports betting, playing through pain, being a leader, how to deal with combative teammates. Nothing is out of bounds. It's available for free on Audible or wherever you get your podcasts. So head on over to Locked On NFL for a sneak peek of Block Forever, or catch the full series available anywhere you get your podcasts, available everywhere right now. Audible, get in the game. So here we go again, right? The Rams are trying to figure out who's going to play quarterback for them coming up against the Raiders. Now, the Rams did not practice on Monday. The Rams took the day off. Obviously, they played on Sunday. They got another game coming up on Thursday, so you need a little time to get your body right and everything else. But per league rule, you are required to list an injury report based on whether you think your guys would have practiced or not had there been a practice. So the Rams on the injury report had John Wolford listed as did not practice. Okay. We'll see. We know that the reason he didn't start against Kansas City is because he was not capable of doing it. We know that the reason that Bryce Perkins was the first guy off the bench in New Orleans is because John Wolford was not capable of doing it. So if he had a setback, it would not be a huge surprise. And Bryce Perkins, and I know I said this last week, I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see more of what it is that he could bring to an NFL team. I thought that John Wolford gave the Rams about the bare minimum where you could be satisfied. And let me try to explain what I mean by that. This was not okay, we can't win with that. This is a non-starter. We can't win with what he's bringing to us. Let's see what else you got. It wasn't that. But it also wasn't much more than that. It was just above the line of, yeah, could the Rams have won the game on Sunday? Yeah, they could have. Would they have won it because of John Wolford? No. Would he have prevented them from winning the game? Not really. But did he do anything that thought, okay, this is going to be the guy that's going to find a way to win a couple of games down the stretch? No. I don't know if Bryce Perkins is that guy either, but I feel like I have a better handle on whether or not Wolford is that guy. I know he's got a better grip of the offense. I know he's probably slightly more developed as far as an NFL caliber passer goes, but I don't know if he's got that little wiggle, that little spark, that little something that Bryce Perkins may or may not have. I'd like to see Perkins again. Saw Perkins a lot in the preseason. I don't know if he's a great player. Probably not. He's a third stringer for a reason. But I'd like to see a little bit more, like we were talking about with Michael Hoecht, like we were talking about with TuTu Atwell. Show me again. Let me see what you got. Let me see how this looks again against a Raider team that gets after the quarterback with Max Crosby, Chandler Jones. Give me against a Raider team that's hot, against a Raider team that is still very much alive and is going to be bringing everything that they can bring. See what it looks like. I know what it looks like with John Wolford. It looks okay. It's C, maybe a C minus. Can live with it. You can pass, you can graduate, but are you going to do anything with it? That's the part that I'm not quite sure about. And that's the part that I'd like to figure out with John Wolford. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rams. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today pod. Biggest stories, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your pods. Until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.